Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first PLD module for this year, welcoming geek culture into your library. My name is Jackie Kropp, and I'm the PLD chair for this year. And next, because I'm special, and I am thrilled to welcome you all. And we have some of the foremost programmers in the state to come and talk to you about all the cool geeky things they're doing at their library, and hopefully help you all, encourage you to get programming like this and embedded into your programming routines as well. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Emily, and thank you all for coming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. May the 4th be with you. It's Star Wars Day, which is perfect timing for this session. We have 4 panelists, including myself, that will be talking, and we'll be introducing ourselves as we go along. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're going to do some introductions here, and then we'll do some definitions. We'll kind of have some general discussion between the panelists. We'll talk about the relevance and importance of this topic in our libraries, and then we will get to some actual tangible programming ideas and things that we've done at our library that can be easily replicated at yours. So who are we? Why do we think we know we can talk about this topic? I'm Emily Williams. I'm the Teen Services Manager for the Metropolitan Library System. I've worked here in Oklahoma City for 20 years. I started as a teen librarian and did very geeky programs with all of our teens. Personally, I've got my Batman sweater on today. I'm a big comic book fan. I have a few characters that I follow pretty religiously, and then just general Marvel, DC appreciation. Star Trek is my heart and soul. I grew up watching The Next Generation. I've seen every episode. I've watched all of the new Picard stuff that just came out. I can do, that's the one pop culture thing that I feel very confident in my trivia knowledge. Doctor Strange, X-Men, Black Canary are some of my favorite comic book characters. And then, yes, Picard season 3 was so good. I'm a Star Wars fan as well, mainly Chewbacca. I have Chewbacca bathrobe and toys and everything all over my office. Chewbacca's always been my favorite. So it's just very small things. And then all of the other very geeky things, Supernatural, Doctor Who, but these Star Trek is my heart and soul. So I'm going to let the rest of the panels introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Kristin Williamson. I'm the Children's Services Manager for the Metropolitan Library System. I can tell you this is definitely not an exhaustive list. These are just kind of the highlights. But X-Files was definitely probably my first fandom. I was super obsessed with the show, even got the Scully haircut and dyed my hair red when I was in 7th or 8th grade. As you can tell, I also like Star Wars. I've actually had this costume since high school. Star Trek, Marvel. I also like Jurassic Park and Doctor Who and a whole slew of other things. I have, going back to my love for the X-Files, I do have a box that has all of my X-Files collectible stuff that I've collected since the mid-90s, and got to meet Gillian Anderson, which was super exciting, and Mitch Pileggi. So that's definitely where my heart is when it comes to my favorite fandoms.
Hi, my name is Conner Kirk. I'm the Programs and Reference Coordinator for Western Plains Library System. I've been with the library system about 7.5 years. I've been all over the system. I've worked in several branches and all over the place. So my number one fandom is Pokemon. I love everything about it. I love the manga, the show, I have the video games, the cards. I have mugs, and I have my little Beware. He always reminds me to be strong, but also cuddly. I love Harry Potter. Simon and Baz, I found there's this huge fan following and like all this artwork coming out all the time, and I'm obsessed with it. I love Simon and Baz stories. And Scooby-Doo, I love Scooby-Doo. I'm so excited they just put Mystery Incorporated back on Netflix. And so I'm rewatching. And you were talking about your first fandom. I totally forgot about this until you just said that, Kristin. It was Charmed. I was obsessed with Charmed. I have all the DVDs and I've watched that show, I couldn't tell you how many times. From like 3rd grade, I was like, Mom, can I please have Charmed DVDs for Christmas? And I just watched them over and over. So.
Hi, I'm Rachel Morton. I'm the library manager at the Huebner Public Library, part of the Southeast Oklahoma Library System. I've been here in various capacities for almost 13 years. And it's the library I grew up in, so it's just like the perfect place for me. I love it. As far as my geek cred, earliest, not on here, would have to be My Little Pony and She-Ra, which really dates me, by the way, but whatever. Star Wars, of course, was born during the movies and still watching them and still enjoying The Mandalorian. Final Fantasy, I'm obsessed. I play them over and over again. They're my comfort games. Sailor Moon was my first anime back in the day when it was first coming over. That and Dragon Ball Z, but magical girl power, I love it. Yes. Lore Olympus is my most recent fandom, and it's the most popular webcomic to come out so far. And then Avatar: The Last Airbender, but not the live action movie. I have to specify. If you know, you know. It was a bad deal.
Okay, so we have a variety of backgrounds, and you can kind of see from our what we've talked about when we're talking about geek culture that it doesn't have to be specifically science fiction or fantasy, which often, you know, gets equated as being geeky, but it could be anything for all ages. We're talking about Pokemon and Sailor Moon and like Final Fantasy, like the age ranges vary there, as do the subjects and topics. So you can be a geek about anything. We were talking about this yesterday, practicing for the session, and like you can be a geek about gardening or bird watching or car repair, or, you know, it's anything that you feel very, very passionately about. So panelists, how do we define geek culture? That's kind of my take. What do you think?
I think it's the dedication to your really it doesn't even have to be really niche interests, but your interests, and it's this, I don't want to say obsession, but it's a dedication to your interests, and you're proud to have them as your interests.
And I'll add, I think that a lot of it has to do with like finding your group of people who have that shared interest. And so it's being able to have that camaraderie and love, and you guys can kind of geek out over whatever that shared love is.
I feel like it's an atmosphere that's filled with like shared passions and obsessions sometimes, Connor. And it's a never-ending quest to share that information with other people with that shared enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Attendees, feel free to share in the chat. We've already been talking in the chat. I feel like whenever geeks get together, we bond over things like this. But yeah, feel free to comment and share your thoughts and ideas in the chat as well. And then those of us that aren't talking can help reply and respond if you do have questions. So who are geeks? I mentioned, I think everyone can be a geek. What do you think?
I mentioned this yesterday when we were talking, but my dad has always called me a geek because I like geeky things, and I like cartoons, and I like collectibles like my Beware. But I'm like, he's a geek though. Like he has all of these interests that he's like pours everything into. Like he's a mechanic and he loves everything about like new tools, and he's like, oh, there's a new series of tools from Craftsman coming out, and did you see this? And he like wants them, and he like looks at them in the catalog, and he looks up videos of people using them. I'm like, see, that's mechanic geek culture. So I don't think it has to be specific, like you said, to a show or a franchise. It can just be about really anything. It's anybody that's really dedicated to it.
I feel like everyone has a hyper focus, and like you say, my kid geeks out over My Hero Academia, which is a very typical thing for a teenage girl to geek out over. And then my husband geeks out on photography and podcasts and whatever Elon Musk has done in the last 24 hours. I geek out over fancy coffees and squishmallows. We've all got everybody got their something.
Yeah, I think kind of just reiterating what everyone said, like geeks are definitely just people who are passionate about something and want to share it with others.
Yes, and kind of based on Simon's comment in the chat as well too, I feel like geek culture is becoming more and more mainstream, and there's also been a backlash to like just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. I've seen that kind of movement a lot lately, and that's really, I think, helped geek culture blossom, because people, you know, they can find their group online. You know, there's always someone who's super interested in that very random niche thing that you're interested in. And then it's people feel like maybe it's okay to be a geek now. So how does geek culture align with libraries? How does it fit into what we're doing and what we want to do in the community?
I feel like libraries are really crucial and good at offering a sanctuary for everyone, but especially for the impassioned. And since we don't have a bottom line or any kind of agenda, we're just here to offer options for everyone. And we are here for the geekdoms. But moreover, we're fad chasers. So like from collection development to programming, we're constantly on the lookout for new trendy ideas to appeal to our customers. So we are the geek sanctuary.
I think that libraries have always been a bastion for geeks. It's a place that people can be accepted, where if you really are into dinosaurs, you can go to the library, you can check out all of the books on dinosaurs, you can find other people there who have shared interests, especially through different clubs and programs and activities going on. So it's a way to find your people and find those connections.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a really small town, and it would be cool if I was looking at the Percy Jackson books, which I still love. I'm currently reading one right now. But bumped into somebody also looking at the Percy Jackson books, and there starts a connection and a friendship and a camaraderie about the fandom.
There's something about being a library staff member too, and someone's checking out a book that you like passionately love, that you know is not like maybe the most popular book, and just like having that moment of connection, either when they're checking it out or returning it and being like, what do you think about this? Or like, oh, I read that and I really, really loved it. And just having other people know that it's okay to be excited about things, and that, you know, they're not alone. So we've got some definitions. We kind of understand the groundwork of where we're at. So let's talk about some kind of specific ways to be welcoming and just the atmosphere in our libraries and things that we can do. There are big things and there are little things. And obviously, like, you do a big splashy program about a fandom or Harry Potter or a certain topic of interest. That is a big thing. You can market it, you can get lots of attention. But then there are little things that you can do too in your library. I think we all have dress codes and can do certain things. If you're allowed to wear geeky t-shirts, I think that's great. A lot of us can wear buttons or flair. And that's a really niche way to, I think people have buttons now all over their bags and stickers on their laptops and things like that. And so it's easy to identify those people. I'm not like a sticker on a laptop person, but I have a tiny little Captain Picard on mine. Like, that's my one. don't put stickers on my water bottle or anything like that. But, that's something that people do. And those are little ways, if you're at the desk and you have those buttons or stickers on your water bottle or something like that, that people can connect and identify. Yes. And having toys and tuxedo mask everywhere, like you got to be supportive. And when someone recognizes that thing, that's an automatic connection that you have. And that's like the library is all about making connections and building community, and that geek culture is the way in for a lot of people, I think. I work with teenagers a lot. I ask questions because there's no way I can keep up with every single thing that teens are into these days. And like if they are telling me about something, I just keep asking questions, because chances are that person will be excited to talk about it, and then I can learn about it. And then, if they recommend a book to me or something, I'm definitely going to go read that. I remember when Pokemon Go came out, 5-6 years ago, and I sat at the volunteer table with the teen volunteers during summer reading. And I was like, so what does this guy do? And what does this happen? And what happens when I spin this? And, I learned all about Pokemon Go and everything. And it was awesome. And they were so excited to share it, and like made fun of me for mispronouncing all the different Pokemon names. And we had a good time. So I think just that general awareness, and being open. What you don't want to do, obviously, is make people feel embarrassed or ashamed, or like they're weird for liking something. So if you can know how to spell things, that's really helpful. So you don't have to ask. And if someone's saying something and you're not like, it's the name of a very obscure anime or something, and you don't know what it is, be like, okay, that sounds cool, but I don't know what this is. Let me look it up for you, and like ask them to spell it, and then try to remember that, because chances are you'll have someone else coming in and asking about it. I do that a lot with musicians that I don't know or understand, when we work reference desks and stuff like that. You have to know how to spell all those names so people don't feel bad for asking about it. Panelists, what do you think? Are there other things we can do, big or little things, to be welcoming to geeks in our library?
I think also it's when somebody comes up and like you're at the desk and they ask you about, do you have any books on this fandom or that fandom? Even if you don't like it, don't tell them that. Don't say, oh, I hate that. I mean, because that just instantly, again, that hurts that connection. That's just my best practice, even like with a book. And I learned that from somebody on this call, or on this Zoom. When you're talking about a book and they say, oh, my favorite book is this, and you hate it, don't let them know that, but say, oh, maybe that one's not for me, but I really like this one. So I think that's always great to keep those connection spaces opening, those synapses, I guess.
I agree completely. I don't think anyone should be shamed over their fandoms. I feel like everyone is just waiting for someone to ask them a question about their fandom. And it's very important to meet that with an enthusiasm, and they're not going to be like, oh, well, you don't know anything about this. They're going to educate you, and then you've got that inside scoop.
Yeah, and I think kind of building on that is actively listening when people are telling you about it. So, you can actually engage with them more and be able to like learn something from it, rather than just kind of like smiling and nodding along and glazing over, because that's not going to make anyone feel good.
So how do we think knowing about geek pop culture can help us serve our community? I find that it's a bridge for us as library staff to connect with children and teens, especially because as adults working in libraries, we probably have more in common with adults that we see in our community. And so it's a great way in, especially with teenagers, because they often feel like they're the only ones who have ever felt this way about anything, and just being able to validate and feed their enthusiasm, I think, is really great.
I think it helps us to make those crucial connections with our customers. Nothing lights a person up like finding a like-minded individual to jump down the rabbit hole with you. And even knowing the fundamentals to a fandom, just knowing just the basic elements enables us to have those conversations and validate our customers.
And it helps keep us relevant in people's lives if they know that they can come to the library and find the latest manga that they were wanting to read, or that they are going to have like a Harry Potter program that they can like go and meet some new friends, being able to stay a part of their lives. So they will think of us when they're thinking of like, oh yeah, like the library is definitely like a place where I want to spend time and I want to invest like our community's money into this.
Well, I mean, it's basically, it's like your collection, because your collection should reflect your population. And if your population, you have a huge following of Castlevania fans in your population, I think you should include some Castlevania manga or something like that, or Seven Deadly Sins. I know is so good. But your library collection should reflect that. And again, your programming, because your programming should tie into it as well, into your collection.
So we've got some different ways that we can show our support and participate in the conversations that are happening around everyone's interests as it relates to geek culture. A couple different display formats and types that we can do. Media tie-ins are very easy. So if there's a big Star Wars movie release, or something is in the news because a book just got a movie deal or something like that, there's all different kinds of media tie-ins that you can do. And it's very easy. You just pull all the topics, like all the Star Wars books that you have on your shelf. And that's a super easy display to just keep refilling as stuff gets checked out. I think it also, like we were saying, it reminds people that we have this stuff in the library system, that the libraries are, responsive to pop culture, and we include that in our collections. And it's not just like old boring books. So like, maybe someone who hasn't been in the library in a while walks in and they see this super relevant pop culture media tie-in display, they're gonna be like, oh, the library has this. So it's a great way to get people excited about things that are happening in pop culture, and also mirror back to them that the library is for them. Read-alikes are another great display option if you have people that are obsessed with one thing and maybe they want to branch out a little bit and find other things to obsess about too. And so you can have, did you like this? Then you might like this based on pop culture. Like if you like the show Supernatural, that's the first one I can think of because I mentioned it earlier, but like it's off the air and people are in mourning now because it was part of their lives for so long. If you're missing Supernatural, here's all these books you can try that have the same tone or the same kind of characters, or Monsters of the Week or something like that you can do. So that's another great, easy kind of tie-in display you can do. And then also, like, I love to do displays that have props that are super eye-catching. You can create, we had a giant Death Star on one of our Star Wars displays downtown. It was, every time I saw it, I just wanted to walk over and like look at it. And then I would look at all the other stuff on the display as well. So it's very easy to do displays like that have some kind of big visual element. And then like geeks, like, your staff is full of geeks who have all these different interests and things. See if they would be willing to, supply some little things that you can put on your display with the caveat that they might disappear. Panelists, do we have any other thoughts or displays that we've done or seen recently? I know people have been putting stuff in the chat too, which is great.
Yeah, one I did just last year when Bridgerton season 2 was about to be dropped. We didn't have any of the Bridgerton books in our physical collection. We had them all digitally. And the branch I worked in was predominantly print users. So I took a bunch of flowers that the drugstore next door, they were just like ends, they had donated. They were like, can you do something with this? I mean, like 2 huge trash bags. So I like covered this column in flowers and I put little paper bees all over it. And I wrote a dearest reader and had, you might like these, and just chose read-alikes for that. So it could be a media tie-in with some read-alikes. And I was really proud of that. It looked really cool.
Okay, so we've got some programming ideas, but before we get to that, let's talk about passive programming, which is things that you can just put out there and let people interact with.
So one thing that we've done at Western Plains is this is our bracket from a few years ago. We did War of the Worlds, and we put all different fandoms, and we just set it on a big poster board, and we set it out by the circ desk, and we had cups and beads, and everybody could vote for their favorite fandom. And then all you had to do was once a week, just count up the tallies and then just move them on the bracket. And it ran for a whole month. And we've done this for fandoms. We've used it for Battle of the Bands, and we did vote on your favorite band. You could even do this within one fandom if you wanted to narrow it down. So say you had a Hunger Games, who would win the Hunger Games? I don't know. And then like had different characters throughout the series all competing in one Hunger Games. But you could also do even coloring sheets, adult coloring sheets, even have those out as passive programming. You could have a Lego contest and say the Legos are out, here, build toward this fandom, and whoever, like it could be Star Wars, and whoever builds the best ship could win something or be recognized and have their creation put on display. But the War of the Worlds, or the Battle of the Fandoms, that is super easy to do, and the bracket's pretty easy to make, and just fill it in as you go.
So let's talk about some different programming ideas that we have. And Kristin, you're up first.
All right, so we do an annual program called GeekCon, and it celebrates all fandoms, and it originally evolved out of Free Comic Book Day. So when we tried to do Free Comic Book Day in our libraries, we have 19 locations spread across our whole county. We discovered that it was really challenging trying to get enough comic books from the various stores in our communities to be able to really do a Free Comic Book Day at our libraries. So instead, we decided to kind of shift and have a GeekCon. So when Free Comic Book Day falls on the first Saturday of May, GeekCon typically falls on the second Saturday of May. So we can kind of extend the celebration. We work with different vendors in the community. So we'll have like independent bookstores and comic book stores. We have some local fandoms. There's like local Ghostbusters and Jedi OKC and some other groups. So we'll have them set up tables and promote different activities that they have going on, or even like selling merch if they have stuff. And then we'll have a lot of different activities going on throughout the day. So some of those things are like escape rooms that are themed on, maybe it'll be like a Harry Potter one or a Percy Jackson one. This year we're doing villains. We'll have crafts, and sometimes it's as simple as like perler beads. Sometimes it can be a little bit more involved. And we try to do stuff that can be scaled up or down. So if you have like somebody there with their young kids, they can still participate. But if you have like somebody older, they can make it more intricate. We'll do discussion panels. So some years we're fortunate enough to get like a comic book writer or illustrator that can lead a discussion about, the process or how they got into it. Sometimes it's more of just like trivia and history over a fandom. And then as you'll see from the images here, we like to do photo ops. So those cardboard cutouts are pretty good for just like setting up like some photo ops around. You can also do like those like things on sticks that you can kind of decorate up. So we'll also do door prizes, and sometimes the different vendors that are there will donate stuff, and sometimes we'll use our budget. But sometimes it can be something as simple as like, you make some buttons up that people can get and have as like giveaways. Onto the next one. So cosplay contest. This is one of the things that is also part of GeekCon, but you can do it as its own separate thing. I've got a couple of my cosplays here, Princess Leia and then Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph. For the cosplay contests, you can do these a few different ways. Depending on who you have for your judges, it can be library staff, it could be some of your vendors who are from like the different fandoms or comic book stores, but you can have really a lot of fun with the categories. So if you're expecting a lot of people, you can have a bunch of different categories. You can have like best in show, you can have best by various age ranges. You can maybe select like best from specific fandoms. And depending on what your budget is for prizes, you could use your budget to buy some prizes. You could maybe have like tote bags with some goodies in it, or you could just use your button maker and make like buttons for everybody that says, you know, this person won best in show, this person was best anime character. So there's a lot of ways that you can do cosplay contests and make it work with whatever your budget and your community would want.
Awesome. Dungeons and Dragons is another great program that's very popular right now. Rachel mentioned earlier that we are kind of trend chasers, that, you know, we are always looking for the next thing that's coming around, and D&D has gotten super popular in recent years, partially because of Stranger Things, I think, and then we have celebrities playing D&D now. There are all different kinds of podcasts and like videos that you can subscribe to on YouTube that have people playing, and lots of people get very into watching those and are interested in starting their own D&D groups and playing. So we have, like Kristin mentioned, 19 libraries in our system, and we have people, you know, every time we do a small scale D&D program, we have waiting lists. And so in one of our teen services meetings, we were talking about, like, librarians were like, oh, well, I want to do it. It's so popular, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. And so we had a training, a 2-hour training session where I brought all the people that were doing D&D programs together with all the people that wanted to learn how to do D&D programs. And we had a really great crash course in what Dungeons and Dragons is and how it works. That's something, if you have like a local game store in your area, that they could probably help facilitate. I'll put my email in the chat. I'm also willing to send you whatever training materials we have and that we used. But basically, if you are interested in starting a Dungeons and Dragons program at your library, you need a dungeon master. You need a dungeon master and dice. And that's about it. The rest, you can print off the sheets from the internet. The rest of the stuff you can just make up. Like, people play with miniatures and all of these things, but that's added extra bonus stuff. You need a dungeon master and you need dice. You probably have the guides in your library about how to play Dungeons and Dragons. You can just check out the player's handbook and start to read through that. It is very overwhelming because there are lots of rules. And if you get a good dungeon master, what they will tell you is you don't have to do all the rules if you don't want to. You can just do whatever's fun for people. And then as you learn, you can start to add more rules in and make it a little bit more complicated and interesting. But a couple of our libraries have volunteer dungeon masters, just people from the community that were very interested in sharing the love of D&D and wanting to help. So that's an option that you could go through. You could also just take that role on yourself and get a group together and be like, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing. We're all going to learn together and go from there. There are pre-written adventures that you can find online. There's also like a D&D starter kit that you can order that's free that will have that information, and you can just work through the adventure yourself, learning very simple roles as you go along. But it's as easy or as complicated as you want it to be. I will say that. And so it's having a dungeon master who knows what they're doing is super helpful if you can get that volunteer. If not, it's fun to just figure it out too as you're going through it. The only thing is you probably want to have a group that is somewhat semi-committed, which I know can be hard in library programs. We get random people week to week. Chances are if you have people that are interested in D&D, they understand that it is a commitment and they'll want to come back week after week or month after month. Even with teenagers, we found that that is not a problem. They are invested and excited and they want to learn how to do this and they want to be a part of a D&D group because it's so much fun and it's popular and it's storytelling. It fits perfectly with libraries and creativity and all of those like things we're trying to foster in our community. So I'll put my email in the chat if you want me to send any of that training materials and stuff that we use, but it's a super fun program.
So now I get to talk about Pokemon, and anybody that knows me personally knows if they stop near me long enough, they're going to hear about Pokemon in some way. So now I get to talk to people about it for like a purpose. So at Western Plains, I ran the Pokemon Card Club, which just started. I had a bag of cards. They were just random cards all mixed together. I didn't mind if they got bent or anything. So I was like, let's play Pokemon. So I thought that was a really important part of having this club started was I had the cards available. And so the kids weren't expected to bring their own because they can be expensive. But we just sat down and like I welcomed everybody every week. And a lot of the kids knew how to play already. A lot of the older ones especially knew how to play and wanted to just start. But some of the younger kids, it was like I would gather them up on half the room while the older kids played and explained how to play. And so, because really, if you can do basic math, I mean, simple addition, subtraction, occasionally multiplication, it's really easy to play Pokemon. I even had a dad come in once and say, can you teach me how to play this so he can have somebody to play with at home because he's bugging me about this all the time to play with him. But I noticed like the kids were loving the Pokemon card playing, but it kept changing. And we had at one point, like on a regular basis, between 20 and 30 kids there in the meeting room. And some kids would bring their Switch, and some kids had phones and would play Pokemon Go. And some didn't like to play cards, but they brought their plushes and would reenact stuff with their plushes. And I think that's important. It's not everybody's like Pikachu wants to stay Pikachu forever. Sometimes you can let your programs evolve and change to other areas of the fandom that the people are wanting. I mean, I think we could have, I mean, it ended with the pandemic. However, I think it could have, if we kept going, evolved in just Pokemon Club and not narrow it down to Card Club, because we had enough space where there was enough room for kids to do different things. And they would bring their cards and it was like, and I had to tell the kids because some kids didn't want to play, they wanted to trade. That's all they wanted to do was trade cards. And I said, well, you don't have to play the cards, you can trade. It's whatever you want. We also did a Pokemon camp during spring break. It was like we had a Pokemon art contest, and then the winners got to like the top 3 placers got to hang up on the front of the circ desk and like got some candy or something. And then one day we decorated Pokeball cupcakes, and we had and it was 3 days of stuff, and we did it every morning, and we had a blast, and it was a really great. And like kids that didn't even know about Pokemon were in the library on spring break and joined in because they were like, oh, this is really cool. And I had pulled our Pokemon books in the collection to do these programs. And they were like, oh, I said, well, here's this. And they said, well, we'll check these out and we'll read. And also, I did some digging because I've played this a few times. It's called Pokemon Unite. It's a free game that you can play, and you can get on the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, and it's also on the Switch, and that's where I played it. But you can sign on and you compete, and it's basically like soccer, kind of like you have to like collect points and make it to the other side and score in the goal. And you have teammates, and you can choose if you're a speedster, an attacker, defender, healer. And it's really cool. And you can choose your character and customize them. And then it's really fun, and you can play. And it's for parents, there's not like chatting across it, because that's one of the things my parents were concerned about whenever they would ask about Pokemon Go. They were like, okay, but this is on the internet. Is there chat features available? I said, no, there's no chat. But those are some options that you could talk about, and you could even have a Pokemon Unite day and just set up some space for kids to play, and they could have one team in one room and one team in another room, which would be a lot of fun. We've also done some Harry Potter programming. We did Harry Potter book night. Jackie's actually the one who started this at Western Plains for us, and we have done so many different Harry Potter things. We've done wand making, we've done escape rooms, we've done dragon egg painting, we've done trivia nights, we've done sorting ceremonies. And the sorting ceremony was really cool. We played the Sorting Hat song from the first book, and we used the audiobook, Jim Dale, of course, and played that. And then we had a sorting hat and placed on everybody. And then they drew a button out, and that was their house. And they got to keep their button of their house. And then they would split into teams and do the escape rooms. And then the team who completed the escape rooms fastest won the event for the night and got little plastic trophies. They had a blast. And we've done Harry Potter themed foods. I have made so many chocolate frogs. You can get a really cheap frog mold on Amazon and just melt your chocolate down and make chocolate frogs. And then you can make jelly slugs, and you can make pumpkin pasties, pretzel wands. Yes. We even did this in English club. We had a fundraiser and we made wands and sold them when I was in college. And we even did a Pokemon scavenger, or excuse me, Harry Potter scavenger hunt when I ran the library in Thomas. And at our summer reading performer, where we have our highest attendance for the week, and it was on Monday, I had some maps made by our graphic designer. It looks like the Marauders map, and it unfolds, and it was a list of businesses and stores downtown in Thomas. And I had coordinated with those businesses and given them little stamps, and the kids had to go collect the stamps. And it was trickier than they thought, because not all the businesses were open on the same day, so they had to keep going back. And then everybody that completed got a free ice cream cone from the local snack stand. And the businesses really liked it, and they liked having people coming in, and it just really built some camaraderie between the library and the downtown area. And it was so much fun. I would love to do that in one of our branches again. But even we took this model of Harry Potter book night to other fandoms. So last year, I said, I told my branch managers, I want you all to do a book themed big event. It doesn't have to be Harry Potter, but it has to be book related, and it needs to be big, like a Harry Potter book night. So we had some people do a Dr. Seuss night, Pete the Cat night, Llama Llama, Chronicles of Narnia. We've had a couple still do Harry Potter, because one branch they watched the first movie, and they had Harry Potter themed snacks, and they did Harry Potter costume contest. And I think that's also important if you're an administrator, because we can listen and talk with our staffers, because one of our staffers said, oh, I don't really know Harry Potter. That's not my thing. I said, well, what do you want to do? And so we just talked through it, and she did Chronicles of Narnia, and it was a blast. We had Turkish Delight. We made homemade Turkish Delight with Jell-O and powdered sugar, and it was delicious, and we had a blast. So there's some tips and tricks on that.
So we come to the fandom free-for-alls portion. Defining a fandom is kind of like interesting. Merriam-Webster had a very boring definition, which was the state or condition of being a fan of someone or something. I'm like, yawn. So I did the thing you're not supposed to do, and I cited the wiki, which is a fandom is a subculture composed of fans characterized by a feeling of empathy and camaraderie with others who share a common interest. And I think that's very important, the camaraderie and the empathy and just being able to be a fan with other people on it. Then the word fandom, by the way, is a combination slang for fanatics and kingdom. So enjoy that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Mainly I'm talking about programming with a fandom, having fun with your fandom. These are some of the things that we've incorporated here at Souls on our smaller scale programs. Our Fandom Fridays is just a really great and easy way to cash in on people's intense obsessions. It can range in pricing and everything. All you have to do is choose a fandom for the week. And the programs can be paper crafts, it can be quizzes, they can be interactive, they can be hands-on. You can delve in deep, or you can just kind of keep it simple. For instance, we've done Hello Kitty cubies, and if you're familiar with cubies, they're these little printable things you make like a square critter out of. We've made all the Marvel characters, we've made Hello Kitty, we've made Harry Styles recently for reasons. We've done 5 nights at Freddy's Escape Rooms, 8-bit perler beads for Super Mario, bringing it old school. For our theme weeks, we just grab a fandom and then we go all week. We like to do it during spring break. So like this year's was Lego challenges. So we would issue every day a different Lego challenge. And of course, we'd feed them different themed foods and play the Lego Dimensions games and other stuff. The Minecraft was last year's Minecraft walls. We just cut out bricks of different dirts and compositions and stuff and let the kids just have fun on some of our blank walls. And they just like kept building all week long. It was a blast. Trivia nights are pretty self-explanatory. And I do recommend that if you do a trivia night, pick a larger fandom. So like Harry Potter or Marvel or Lord of the Rings, because if you get those niche ones, you're not going to have as much participation. And the goal is to make everybody feel good about it. And then tournaments, we've had Magic the Gathering, because I am old school. And that comes in cycles, it comes in waves. And it had a resurgence just before the pandemic here in my area. And so I was teaching kids left and right how to play Magic the Gathering, and then it all stopped. But it is still out there and it will come back. Mark my words. Super Smash Bros. Is always a blast because it already incorporates a lot of fandoms just into that one game. And if you buy all the expansions and stuff, you have untold power. Uno. Has anybody else noticed that Uno has like recently had a resurgence also? All the kids are wanting Uno, and there are so many variations of the game now. And Phase 10, absolutely, Blair. Yeah, it's definitely worth having in your arsenal because it's cheap, and an easy way to program. Just bust it out. My main events, and these are the ones where I actually pour some money into it. Our book release parties. Our first one was the Crown by Kira Cast. It came out and I had so many kids just loving that series. So we said, why not a book release party? We bought a few copies of the book to give away. We made bracelets and we let them design their own selection gowns and we just had a good time. Fed them, of course. Court of Wings and Ruin, when that one came out by Sarah J. Maas. We made fairy crowns and wings and had photo ops. And our most recent one was on Lore Olympus. We had a costume contest. These kids were full on painted colors because I don't know if anybody's familiar with Lore Olympus, but all the different gods and goddesses are different colors. We had a girl show up dressed up as Minty, and she was bright red. She had the ears, she had the ensemble, the hair up and everything. And I'm like, you go, girl. She was amazing. She won easily. We served them Greek type food. I bought a bunch of baklava and I made them ambrosia, which was just very pink punch. I had a quote wall where we asked the people to post their favorite quotes from the series. And I always, when I have a fandom, I like to find just a bunch of memes and just plaster them everywhere for the walls. Something we tried new with this one was to get the excitement built up on Facebook and on Instagram. We asked people to send in their playlists, what they'd like to hear, what they think resonates with Lore Olympus. So they did that, and then they had their own music playing when it came on. They're like, I requested the song. It was a big deal. They liked it. The marathons, I'm sure we've all done marathons. They used to be lock-ins when I was a younger, more foolish librarian, but I can't do the overnight thing anymore. It makes me crazy. So we just start in the middle of the day or in the beginning of the day and then end it late, but not overnight. We've done Lord of the Rings, we've done Star Wars, we've done Harry Potter, we've done Marvel movies. Anytime one of those was getting a new release, it's like, well, it's time to revamp everything and bring it back up. Oddly enough, we had an Anne of Green Gables marathon one time, and that was surprisingly well attended. I love Anne of Green Gables anyway, but and of course, anytime you do this, you can't just plunk them in front of a movie and say, do it. You've got to feed them. You've got to have alternative things to do, games and all that. There's a copyright that needs to be looked at. We had at the time a movie licensing, so we had to pay attention to that. And I think we had to buy something special for Harry Potter just to be able to do it right before we did it to drum up business for the Yule Ball, which I'll get to in a bit, but definitely pay attention to whether or not you have a movie license. The Pokemon Go week was our spring break. It was before pandemic, I think, or it might have been, I think it was. Everything's pre-pandemic, but we went hard. We are a Pokestop, and there are several gyms around us. So all week long, we just set out lures, and we set times for Poke walks to go around, and we had people join virtually, which I thought was neat. Wasn't anticipating that, but we also had hands-on crafts for the kids who wanted to participate but didn't have phones for the Pokemon Go. And then our prizes, we had gift cards and toys and a giant Pikachu plushie. He was so cute. Let's see. The Yule Ball. The Yule Ball is something we did pre-pandemic. And it was a joint effort on all the libraries in the northern region of the Southeast Oklahoma library system. And we rented out the Reynolds Center in Poto, Oklahoma. And then we filled it. We had the main floor was for the dance floor and for photo props and costume contests. The hallway was Diagon Alley with all the swag, and it was all of course free to attend. And we gave out spell books, we gave out wands, we gave out potions, and we just had a blast. And the side rooms, we had trivias and sorting hats, and to drum up business for it, we had the movies playing at the libraries that could do that. And then we also, for a month beforehand, we programmed Harry Potter at all the libraries that were participating just to build up the fervor. But that was massively attended. We had a great time, and it was absolutely exhausting, so it was worth it.
Well, thank you. Those are our programming ideas. Hopefully, I mean, you're probably already interested in geek culture if you're in this session, or you're interested in incorporating more into your library. So we have some ideas for you there. Jackie mentioned that you'll be emailed a copy of this recording, so you'll have all of these ideas. Does anyone have any questions for us? We just have a few minutes left. Happy to share. Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming today. We really appreciated it, and we love getting to talk about one of our favorite topics. And yes, Jackie put a link to the evaluation in the chat, so please fill that out.
Well, thank you guys so much for presenting. That was incredible. I hope that you guys are as inspired as I am to go out and do all the geeky things. I appreciate your time and attention this morning. Thank you all for coming, and please fill out your evaluation. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.